much a feeling world. I take the intellect, but we've got to translate it into real feelings, because that's the problem with most people, is they just have their knowledge and they try to teach things and they think that that's what's really valuable. But if we can't connect it with feelings and reasoning, then we're not using that technology that we developed over tens of thousands of years, and we're just getting lost in the noise.
Welcome to another episode of the Limitless Live Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Smith. And if you have not done so, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another podcast. And if you love this podcast and you want some more tips and tricks on how to improve yourself, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. There are a ton of instructional videos there. You can find the links down below. However, before you go ahead and do that, our guest today, harnessing the power of parable, the maestro of memoir himself, Kyle Gray.
Kyle, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here for it.
That's awesome, dude. I'm very excited to have you here. Not just because your name is also Kyle, but I think that you're a freaking stellar dude. You're ground to earth, and you have a very calming presence to you. It's good.
Thank you.
My pleasure, my friend. So the question that I like to kickstart the podcast with is, how is it, Kyle, that you impact the lives of the people around you?
An interesting question, um, because I feel the way the people around you can make a really broad impression, where it's not necessarily just work. It could be friends, it could be family, and it could be beyond that in many different ways. And I think that's really brilliant. How I do it professionally is I have a combination of listening very carefully to experts who are very, very smart and talented in what they do, but because of it, they get a little caught up in this dense forest of knowledge, and they're not sure which point or which tree to make. And so I can help them draw out the right ideas and share them in the right way that's going to make sense and translate the smart things happening into their head that really land for their clients. And this has been a process of storytelling and writing and creativity that I have been developing for over a decade in one form or another, from writing songs to writing blog articles and content to now running a coaching business on creating keynote speeches and signature talks. And it's an interesting question about how I would impact friends and family around me. I feel that a lot of the work that I do in helping people express themselves is how I want to show up or be more creative and expressive and honest around my friends and my family, and leaving the world more playful and inspired because of it.
That's beautiful, my friend. Have you always enjoyed writing or sharing stories?
I guess so. I'm not sure if it all made sense kind of leading up to it, or all of the threads strung together. I would say that I had a challenging time expressing how I felt, or really feeling that I had good ways to do that growing up. And so playing guitar and writing songs was a certain way to get those feelings out that was safe and acceptable in a context, and it was like a nice place. And I put a lot of pressure on myself early on to write and perform in that way, and I didn't really know how to control or channel that gift in a lot of ways, and ended up burning myself out on that. And accidentally, in a lot of ways, stumbled on content marketing as a result of interviewing a lot of different people and building up relationships, trying to figure out how to start a business, how to grow a business, um, over the course of a few years. And yeah, just coincidentally got hired. Well, maybe not so coincidentally, but as a result of a relationship and this position to do content marketing, write blog posts, tell the story of this company opened up, and it was an opportunity for me to travel to Southeast Asia. I was going to work remote, live in Southeast Asia, and work for this guy that lived in Australia and had founded a startup called WP Curve. And he threw me into the deep end of writing. And it was really hard work, especially at first, to create high quality content, high quality ideas, not just for a single professor that would kind of halfway read your paper and then give you a grade, but for thousands of people, and really competing in the world of content and ideas, and for startup owners and business owners and their minds and attention, was a whole different ballgame. And through getting better at that process, there was something that I felt, oh, this is kind of like writing music. There's something kind of cool about this. And that there was something I enjoyed about it. And it also allowed me to live in Thailand and make money, which was pretty awesome at the time. And a trend that continued to be powerful in my life. A few years down the line, after having built up some relationships and some reputation writing for this company, I got introduced to somebody who was learning how to, or teaching people how to speak from the stage and use that as a reliable way to grow your business. And it reminded me of the experiences that I would create when I made live performances on the stage. And there was something that was missing from just what I was doing in my content that really resonated with me. And so I found my way to learn everything I could and get involved with this company and start writing for them and discovering this process. And so each one of these threads of led to different story forms of storytelling and messaging and all these things. And I would never, I couldn't really see it going forward a lot of the times. And it's only looking back that I can say, oh yeah, of course, all this storytelling, and this adds up to this amazing thing.
That's cool, man. How do you find how would you describe, well, this is a better question. Do you find that is each writing style unique to the individual?
What do you mean by writing style?
So I'm thinking of it like so if you're writing music, you're writing like a genre. So
Mhm.
would there be a writing style, and do you see oh, okay. Do you see commonalities in writing as a whole and then adding a unique, like, creative twist to the writing itself? And how do you pull that uniqueness of an individual's story or their message or the knowledge bombs that they have and apply it to writing or speaking?
Yeah. So as in terms of styles, and what I see is there are certain styles, there are certain predictable movements and frameworks that aren't so much like defined in grammar, or kind of, it's actually something deeper. It's like hardwired. We evolved with storytelling, and we used it as a technology and a tool. And so there are certain ways that we have programmed ourselves and each other to convey emotion and information. And there are degrees of how impactful you can be with us. Knowing this, there are arrays of frameworks of different kinds of stories that we can use to serve certain purposes, activate certain parts of the brain. And what makes each individual, while the frameworks are the same, and many of our favorite stories follow very similar frameworks, what makes each one unique is your story, your experience, your message. And how I combine both of these things is I know I've practiced these frameworks with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. So I know what they need and what to ask for. And the people that I work with know their story, and I can ask the right questions and draw out the pieces of what makes them unique and apply it to these frameworks that are known to work. And there are many different styles of either writing, and that can be expressed, you mentioned genre, um, but that can be personality types or length of content or format of content. And it's much deeper than just what kind of style. But I'm more agnostic to it. I like to work in, well, except for the fact I work in a signature talk. I like to help people create a 45-minute talk. And the reason I do that is because it creates it's enough stories, it's enough teaching, and it can help move somebody from I don't know who this person is to I'm ready for a deeper experience of some kind, whether it's a coaching call with you or a sales call for a program or something deeper. But when you can to create something like that, you have to learn how to tell a certain kind of story. You have to learn how to teach, and it's almost like a wax on, wax off, where when you can build it into a signature talk, you're going to notice that you start sharing stories like this on podcasts naturally without even thinking about it because you've practiced these movements and you're starting to apply them. You're going to write them in your emails and your social media content. And even you're going to wake up in the morning feeling more inspired and connected and energized to do the brilliant work that you do because you can finally clearly express it in a way that gets results.
Nice. There's been well, since Richmond, I've been significantly more enthralled by words, storytelling, and speaking. And as I've just been finding myself more involved in writing more stuff or even interviews or speaking, uh, a frame that has really unlocked a couple of thoughts because I find myself to be a creative person and or at least the creativity and the engineering were at one point two opposite kind of things. So it was the idea that writing had to be in a format or specific, and then it takes away from the creativity aspect of it. But I found that there is the overlap of engineering and creativity when it comes to writing, speaking, and it's performing. And what I think is really cool with the transmission of knowledge or this form of telepathy, because it's just taking your thoughts and then sharing it with other people, is that it could be a whole speech or it could be one sentence that can change the trajectory of an individual's life or perspective or perception or impact. Uh, with the folks that, or even with yourself, and with the folks that you've worked with and you do work with, is there a stack of things that you kind of observe and you're like, ooh, that's something magical. Like there's something special there. There's something that you can just, after years of being a practitioner of a wordsmith, do you recognize certain things or certain elements that really pop out when people are speaking?
Oftentimes, what I follow quite selfishly is my own what I want to learn and what intrigues me. And but it's also really valuable because I typically am am an ideal customer for a lot of the clients that I work with. I'm working with somebody who's launching an AI course, and I'm really interested, and I engage with artificial intelligence every, often, but I want to learn how to use it and what to do. And so I'm like more interested and intrigued and engaged, and can provide certain perspectives. And there's also an ability to both, you have to hold two personalities at the same time. You have to be a student and you have to be curious, and there's a certain kind of skeptic and filtering or moving and directing. And it's difficult, especially it's difficult to keep like switching these perspectives and going back and forth in this. But when somebody has something that, yeah, that interests me, and what I find interesting these days is cutting edge health. How can I improve my health? Yeah, well, what can I learn about, as far as the future or investing or trading? Um, and a lot of the times, like, what I find to be magical these days, or what the best clients do, is I've had people invest a lot of money with me, but they actually don't show up and fully play or go into the process. They wouldn't. A lot of people are very understandably busy. And there are people that are very understandably busy, and they sign on to my course and they download the documents and they do thinking ahead of time of the work that we're doing. And we can work so much more. And there's also, I had this reflected to me, and it's an interesting sense of balance, but there's also a certain level of surrender that you have to being directed and under in this process of being like carried through questions, and you're not exactly sure a lot of the times where exactly I'm going to go with all of this. And so you just kind of have to trust and allow that. And especially for somebody who's worked really hard to get to where they are, they have a company that's making multiple six figures, seven figures, eight figures, and they see this, relatively young man. They're like, "Who the hell are you?" Like, I've been speaking for years, and they deserve to be respected in their own right. And so, um, yeah, can we show that respect and create that surrender to allow them to go through this process of asking them deeper questions and opening them up? And there's a lot of, yeah, subtlety in all of these things, but those that are the best are able to, they can surrender and they can be playful and creative. They have a yes and attitude, and they can take the direction of the questions I give of, okay, well, when did you feel like this? When did you feel this same fear that you describe your clients having? Can you tell me about a specific room that you were in? And the more that they can be playful with that and creative with the ideas and spontaneously move, the faster we can go together.
I like that. I like the surrender to direction. I'm putting that on my sticky notes back there. I think that's a great way of saying it, man. Uh, with uh, with with writing, with storytelling, with uh, creating, with creating, uh, that surrender to direction, that resistance to put yourself on the table per se. How is that? I imagine that you run into that, or you find yourself with that sort of an obstacle often. Is there a thought or a method or a whatever your insights are on, I guess, coming to terms with that resistance? I guess surrender to direction would be the main thing, but where someone can go deeper and it's like, holy shit, I didn't even think of that aspect of myself in this sort of way before.
Yeah, I can relate to that question in a couple of ways. And there's a there's a professional and a spiritual way of this. And
Mm.
the professional way is the way I learned it first. And I can't remember who said this quote, but it's a good one and they deserve to be lauded for it. It says, I only write when I'm inspired. Fortunately, inspiration strikes at 9 a.m. every morning.
Mm.
And what that means is you show up and you do the work and you treat your work like a professional. And they're in the contrast of an amateur would write when they feel inspired and write when they feel good. And on a day that they don't feel bad, they don't do it. And that's fine. And it probably doesn't go somewhere. And somebody that's a professional is like, I hate this book. It's driving me crazy. And I'm still showing up and I'm writing it. And you're fighting and wrestling through it because you're creating something great. And a professional will charge what they're worth because they value themselves and the process that they've gone through, and they honor that. And this is a really important idea and energy, especially for the big hearted artistic healers that I expect some of whom might be listening in, and to understand that professionalism. But then the spiritual side of this is, I've had that for a while, or I've had that element of show up and make things happen and make it work. And a lot of the feedback I've been getting, particularly in the last uh, year, but over the last little while, is like, can I allow myself to just like play, to like make a video and express something that's just goofy, or me, or write
Mm.
music and share my music and share really things about me that I don't think are necessarily like huge storytelling, add value things or professional things. Can I give myself room to play and create and really invest in that the way that I think it deserves? And there's all kinds of like blocks in the way, and it's been interesting that I've built a lifestyle business over 10 years, and it's still really difficult after, even though I've had a lot of adventures and I've lived a great lifestyle, to really allow myself to live in that way.
That's cool. That's neat. I like the combination of the professional and the spiritual aspects. Nice little bring it all together. Well, you also get the aspect where you get the two working together rather than resisting each other or trying to create conflict. And then that also creates less resistance, and there's more of a slipstream of ideas that can flow to you a little bit more efficiently because it's not sticking with one to the other as well. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and it boils down to, if you're the professional, and so you wake up and you write in your journal every morning, or you do the things every morning that puts you in the state of mind and the state of health that you feel good enough about yourself that you can have some creative time, or you do enough work that, and you're organized in a way that that now you can have Fridays. And it's not
Mm.
always easy at first, especially early on. Sometimes it's but um, yeah, by being able to approach your work you professionally, you can create space for freedom, and knowing that you're like creating the space for this thing that you love, it energizes you to be more diligent in your professionalism,
Mm.
and vice versa.
I like that. Mm-mm. Yeah. Mm. I'm really digging that one. That's great. Uh, when you say yes and attitude, yeah, touch on that one for a second. How would
So
you describe that?
there's a couple of different things. There's quickly being able to understand and express their feelings without like, I'll be like, okay, let's create a line. I'm going to write out this statement. Everybody's telling you this, but you should think that. And some people can like plug ideas in, or like give themselves a little bit of freedom to express, and some people really feel the need to always have it controlled, and so it's a little bit slower. um, or I can ask, like, tell me about a time when you felt like this. Tell me about a specific Tuesday. And some people they will be like, well, I have so many of these stories. I have so many. I've felt like this all the time. And you know what's important about this is, and they'll immediately start trying to teach me something.
Mm.
And I'll be like, whoa, hold on. Like, and it's because it's like we've so like compulsively go into what we think of teaching in it, and I'll have to like redirect them.
Mm.
So it takes there's like a certain combination of people who know their work really well, and they can really surrender and to allow me to be in my role and ask the questions and draw things out, and they can recall things, or they can receive that guidance and move through it in like a playful way. And they can say like, you know, that line, like this word in here makes me feel like this, or you know what you just said there, it actually makes me feel kind of anxious. There was just going through this several hour kind of question marking process. He was like, this is making me feel anxious because the way you're asking me things, like I realize that this might not be in my product right away, and this is a nice thing, but I don't know about this. And
Mm.
um, I was so excited. I was like, I'm delighted that I don't want you to feel like this, but I'm so glad you shared. And we explored it, and it turned out to be a really cool opportunity. But it's somebody who can like really be able to reflect and be in tune and be like, hey, this is making me feel like this right now. And being able to play with that in a really open, curious way, because the feelings that we're creating, I work in a very much a feeling world. I take the intellect, but we've got to translate it into real feelings, because that's the problem with most people, is they just have their knowledge and they try to teach things and they think that that's what's really valuable. But if we can't connect it with feelings and reasoning, then we're not using that technology that we developed over tens of thousands of years, and we're just getting lost in the noise.
Mm. You just unlocked a little paradigm shift on that one with the focus where we focus on teaching rather than the story behind or the philosophy behind the teaching. Would that be accurate to say on that one?
Uh, yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things is like, if I have 30 minutes to teach or 10 minutes to teach, what in the world do I teach? Do I try and teach as many things, as much things as possible? That seems to be what most people want to do. Because if I can teach you as many things as possible, then you will know how smart I am. You will see my knowledge and want to trust me. But it's really not like that. And if instead we start asking like, well, what could I teach in 10 minutes that would open up their mind to new possibilities, that would overcome a belief that they have that's keeping them from being successful in this? Said very similar to like, what would I do if I was coaching somebody? And this is a lot of the times I see giving a presentation is coaching at scale. You know your ideal client so well that you can speak to them because you have spoken to them so many times, that you can speak and teach from the stage and overcome those limiting beliefs, in the same way that you would on a one-on-one call.
Mm.
For example, if we'll do like a very simple health example, like if I wanted to find a coach to get amazing six-pack abs, we could assume, like, I've tried a lot of diets, I've tried a lot of different kinds of exercises and a lot of different coaches, and nothing's really worked for me. And so if I was a coach like this, and maybe it's just the keto diet, I'm a keto diet coach, and I've got some, we'll say we've also got some mindset certifications of various kinds, whatever. And if I just start talking to this person like, well, the keto diet, you get rid of all gluten, you got to get rid of gluten and this and that, and you got to do this, and we're going to do these kind of exercises. Already I'm not listening to you. I'm already bored because I've tried these things before. I've tried diets. They don't work for me. And so all this information is already gone. It creating an effect I call overwhelming, both boring and overwhelming someone at the same time. So let's ask this question differently. Like, how can I shift what are their beliefs that are holding them back? Well, what if in this case of abs, what if it's not what you're eating, but what if we just tried to change when you're eating and see if that got results? Well, I've never thought of it that way before. You telling me I don't have to change my diet and I might be able to get results? Yeah, I do intermittent fasting, and I know that's a different technique, but hopefully you guys can at least bridge the gap in understanding like what we would want to teach for. We want them to feel like there's more possibilities in their future. There's more opportunities for them when we teach. And that allows them to start this when we teach with this angle and combine it with a story of, well, I had a client just like you, and they came to me with the same objection and the same problem. And here's how we applied this idea together. And then they got this amazing result. You're teaching, you're adding value to your teaching, you're providing a concrete example and showcasing what happens. But you're also talking, you're saying, hey, I work with people just like you, and they came to me with the same objection that you have right now, and look at the great result they got. And this is how we want to teach in a way that gets people open to thinking, wow, working with Kyle, and of course I'm referring to you.
Yeah, the third person.
Sorry, couldn't help myself on that one.
All good.
No, I was referring to Kyle Smith.
Yeah,
But yeah, also
appreciated.
the royal audience. Anyway, yeah, of course I want to work with Kyle. And that's the effect that we want to create with our teaching. But most people haven't ever bothered to ask the question. We haven't ever questioned it. And maybe we even do have some good stories, and we do have a lot of passion and a lot of experience. And I believe that everybody's like brimming with that. And it's just a matter of applying it in the right way with the right frameworks. I don't have any of the right answers of what your best stories are. I just know how to ask the right questions to dig in to find the pieces that we can put together for you.
Mm. I like that. I'm just imagining, or actually, I'm kind of visualizing it where, because I feel at some point I'm probably going to work with you at some point, just because your skill set is something that I really, well, it's something that I want to work on. I think that just knowing what you do, listening to a couple of podcasts that you've been on, and then speaking with you, I just think that the ability to pull that professionalism and that creativity from like the deep spots, I think that's pretty sweet. And I'm kind of envisioning uh the moment where I have all these pieces. It's like all these pieces all over the place, and then it's just pulling from the different parts, and it's like, bro, you had all these pieces. You just didn't see the mosaic for what it could be. You were too busy looking at each individual piece separately. Have you found, and then once that kind of mosaic is put together, I would imagine that there is a sigh of relief, or the burden of, do I know what I'm saying, is lifted through that process. Have you recognized that with the people that you've worked with previously?
Absolutely. I think it's taxing to care so much about something and try to talk to people about it, to know that it's so cool and it's impacted you and it's made your life better. And when you talk to people about it, they look at you and they say, I have to go to the bathroom now. And they run away. And you start to doubt, or even people who are very successful and it's just like it's not quite working. They have to work harder to overcompensate in other areas to keep things going. And there is a relief when it can finally be expressed in a way that makes sense in the heart as much as the head. And it's a validation in a sort of way. And I would say it's a source of fuel. When you can express your story with that level of clarity and you feel that sense of alignment, a lot of the times the biggest challenges facing your business in that moment are, are fade away or are no longer the biggest challenges, and you are able to step into that greater level of genius, of freedom, of ownership. And I find that many of the people I work with, they are at this certain threshold where they are stuck in doing what they are really good at, but they're afraid to kind of let go of the reins and to make space for what they're really great at, and being in this full visionary mode and no longer just creating a business to grow and be profitable, but to really speak about a vision and a legacy and an impact. And very often they come when they want to start talking about this because they've done taxes really well their whole life, but now that they know that there's so much more being wealthy than just taxes, or health and fitness too. Speaking about something more, they come when they want that expressed and that shared, and it's a real honor. And again, I could not have imagined myself finding myself at this cross section of holding this kind of space, but this is what I see, and this is also another kind of tying it back to one of your questions earlier, magical things that I look for. And this is a pattern that I see is they're right on this precipice, they're right on this threshold of growing beyond just being a really great business owner and tapping into it being a true visionary.
That's sweet. I don't remember the name of this particular occupation, but there's loggers, and when the logs were going down the river, sometimes they would get bundled up, and there would be a block. And when they couldn't figure out how to loosen up the logs enough to be able to create a steady flow again to transport the logs from point A to point B, they would actually call in this one fella, and they would look at the bunch of logs and wouldn't start pulling things out on the fly, but would actually find the key log or the key pivot point in order to continue the flow of the river. So the person would take the log out, remove it, and then boom, that would be it. So it could be like, I don't know, 30 minutes of work or something like that. But because of the acuteness of the work, where it's just simple, remove, how you talk about what you do kind of reminds me of that, where the participant would come in, have a whole bunch of shenanigans, all the logs would be all piled up, and then you're like, yo, bro, just like pick up this pen, write this sentence, and then you're good. Or at least it would create that kind of steady stream of information. If each log is a piece of information, now it's actually flowing, literally.
Yeah, amazing. That's a really cool reflection. I haven't heard of that profession before, nor have I been likened to it. But yeah, I think it's a great metaphor for it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you're just changing lives that way, dude. Mm, mm, yes. So we're at the top of the hour. I have one question before the last two questions, and the question is pretty simple: is there anything that has to be said that hasn't been said yet?
I would say that just to everybody out there, no matter what your certification that you want to sell or offer is that you bring a whole lifetime of experience and perspectives and stories and value to what you do, and it's important to consider those and align those to what you are most currently doing.
Mm, I like that. I like that. Final questions. the best ones, totally biased, but set in the context, it is the end of your days. You are on your deathbed. You're surrounded by the people that you care for. What piece of advice do you want to pass on to the people around you?
Find the way to speak your truth as fully and as often as possible.
I like that. I really like that. Then the final question. The best version of Kyle Gray is sitting next to you right now. What piece of advice does he have for this season of your life?
You're going to do, you're doing awesome. I totally believe in you. I'm grateful for you because I am me now. And I've been rooting for you the whole time.
Nice. Nice. I've been loving the answers that people have been giving for that one recently. It's good. It's inspirational. It's freaking amazing. It's beautiful. It's heartwarming. It's soulful. Love that. Love that. Well, folks, that's what I got for you in today's episode. Where can people find you, Kyle?
You can find me at thestoryengine.co. I have a blog. I've had my own podcast that I've been running for over 4 years there. And if you'd like to engage with me, I am on LinkedIn and Instagram primarily. Instagram is at Hey Kyle Gray. And there's lots of other Kyle Grays on LinkedIn. So if you search Kyle Gray Storytelling or Kyle Gray Story Engine, you will find me. And I would love to hear from anybody who's gone through this whole experience. Kyle, thank you so much for having me and for creating this amazing space and this amazing community. It's been a super honor to be able to share here with you and receive these brilliant questions.
Thank you, friend. I take what you say and I receive it to the heart, right to the heart, bypassing the mind, straight to the soul. Excellent, folks. If you loved today's episode, please do me a favor right now. Take a screenshot, share it on your Instagram stories, and tag me with my handle at DapperDudeKyle, along with at Hey Kyle Gray. That is one of the ways that we grow. And until next time, keep up the kindness, and I hope your day treats you as good as you look.